Hello, welcome to Stretford. Paddock. It is Tuesday the 20th of August and we have got some big news today. We've got massive updates on Facundo Pellistri, Sander Berge, McTominay and of course Ugarte as well. You can see it in the thumbnail there. Fabrizio Romano and others have been talking about Ugarte through the night. There have been updates on that deal. We're going to be getting into all of those. Also, Lowe has been talking about some of United's deals for the rest of the summer as well, what's left of it. 9 days left on the transfer window now. We're going to be getting into every single piece of that. Get your thoughts in the comments and the chat and hit like on the video as well. Let's start with this Ugarte stuff then. So last night we saw Fabrizio Romano with a, I wouldn't say flurry, but a sort of a clutch of updates on this story. So we see here, Fabrizio Romano understand that Manchester United are working on a loan with an obligation to buy proposal for Manuel Ugarte. Negotiations to continue with this formula as Jorge Mendes is leading talks with Paris Saint-Germain. Ugarte wants United and is pushing a lot after personal terms agreed in July. So we've heard rumours about this sort of loan with an obligation to buy, haven't we? Which obviously, anytime there's an obligation to buy, that means you have to buy him. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm sure you all do. Which then goes, okay, so why don't we just buy him now? It's a PSR thing, isn't it? It has to be, either for us or for them, and most likely that's for us because we've already spent a decent amount this summer. You're basically putting the transfer fee a year down the line as far as your accounts are concerned. With that obligation to buy, that means we have to buy him after 12 months anyway, but for now, we can call it a loan. We're basically deferring payment by a year. That is essentially what it is. There's nothing different. I just think contractually and maybe legally, deferred payment isn't something that you can put down as next year's payment. However, a loan with an obligation to buy, you can put down as next year's payment because technically that agreement to buy Ugarte doesn't kick in until next June. Therefore, United can put it down on next year's books or whichever year's books they want to put it down as. It makes sense. It's a financial sort of... I guess it is a loophole really, isn't it? If there's an obligation to buy, then why don't you just buy him? You have to buy him anyway. We're doing it for financial reasons, obviously. Now that goes back to the next question, which is obviously, what is the fee? And this has been the sticking point the whole time. You can see there, personal terms agreed in July. So the idea of Ugarte coming to United has been accepted in his camp, in United's camp, for over a month now, a month and a half. However, what the fee will be at the end of that year is the big question. Now, there's many things that come into this. First of all, will there be a loan fee for this year? Will we pay 20 million now and 40 million in 12 months' time as a loan fee and then a transfer fee? Will it be a free loan and then we pay the full 60 million or whatever it is in 12 months' time? I think the big sticking point has been that PSG want basically the entire 60 million euros that they paid for Ugarte 12 months ago. They want all of that money back for him, even though he's being sold a year later, clearly not in favour of the manager or of the squad. They still want to get everything they paid for him, which doesn't make any sense to me. However, if they're being flexible or seem to be flexible with this loan with obligation to buy that helps Man United out, I expect the transfer fee to then be slightly closer to that 60 million because they've essentially done us a favour. They could refuse to sell him to us. They could refuse to do this loan with an obligation to buy because they want the money right now. If they basically defer payment for 12 months, you would expect United to go, okay, you've helped us out there, and as a result, we'll maybe give you 5 million more than we wanted to. Or we'll spread the payments out so it'll be a 15 million loan fee plus 45 million total fee at the end of the loan. We'll have to wait and see on that. And also we have to wait and see whether this loan deal does actually get done because we've heard rumours that this has been going on for a little while now. We haven't really seen it from the big transfer pundits up until now. I mean, Romano has mentioned it, but it does seem as though these talks are ongoing and are happening right now. I think he's mentioned that these talks have been happening this week. So things should, I mean, I was going to say things should start to change and we should start to see updates soon. Well, we have to. The window shuts in 9 days. We can't wait 2 months to find out, can we? We will know within the next 9 days whether this is going to happen. I personally think it will. I think if they didn't think this was doable, we wouldn't be chatting to him anymore. The only question is there someone else we're looking at instead? Because otherwise, I think this deal will get done. And if we are looking at someone else, well, who is it? Because Sander Berge, I mean, we'll get to him in just a second, has just gone to Fulham or will be going to Fulham. Frankie de Jong was sort of sniffed at potentially by some of the newspapers in the last couple of weeks, but that doesn't seem to have any legs to it whatsoever. It seems as though Ugarte is United's one and only target. If that's the case, I don't see why this doesn't get done. Romano then tweeted he's gone a little bit cryptic here. He's gone a bit Elon Musk, just posting emojis in response to his own tweets. Obviously a tweet from July the 18th there. We've agreed personal terms with Manuel Ugarte. That was covered here. We've just mentioned it again, of course, just now. Contract terms discussed. Player keen on moving to United, even without Champions League football. He's then replied to that. When was this? Can we have a look at the exact time that this tweet was posted? The most recent one. If we have a look there, that was 11:07 last night. He's just put the red emoji, the eyes emoji, and the Uruguay emoji, which obviously is like, this is happening, or keep your eyes on this, or he's hinting that this is happening, isn't he? Let's not. He can call it what he wants. He knows what he's doing by doing that. He's hinting that this is happening, isn't it? That's what he's doing there. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Give me your thoughts on Ugarte in the comments. Godwin says we need him. Interesting. Keith Siri says, did Ugarte have a pre-season, or is he going to take weeks to get up to match fitness if and when we do sign him? I think he went to the Copa America, didn't he? Yeah. So he won't have had a proper full pre-season, but then, Garnacho, Lisandro Martinez, Bruno Fernandes, Kobe Mainoo haven't had pre-seasons, and they've, all come into the game at the weekend, most of them starting. So it hopefully wouldn't take too long to bring him in, but the deal has to get done first. That's the thing, isn't it? It's an interesting one, this. Chris Buxton says Joe uses Timotei. What is that, shampoo? I don't actually. I use an old pump action bottle that I refill with the cheapest shampoo I can buy on my Tesco online delivery. It's just a little trick. You should try it yourself sometime. Brainiac says we will sign him, no doubt about that. I love a no doubt about that. It's a very Sir Alex Ferguson turn of phrase. There's no doubt about that. I used to say that all the time, Sir Alex, and every time I can see him as well. There's a picture of Sir Alex Ferguson just behind that camera, and every time I hear or see someone say no doubt about that, very Sir Alex. Ryan says, Looker said this deal is contingent on McTominay leaving. We badly need a left back. Interesting that, because we've seen other journalists say that these two things aren't dependent on each other. Like within the last sort of 24 hours, talking about that potential McTominay deal falling through, the reports were that this deal isn't contingent on McTominay leaving. And I don't see why it would be if we're doing a loan. Because if we are doing a loan deal, then we're either, let's say, a maximum of 20 million as a loan fee. Maximum could be all the way down to zero. It's not a 60 million outlay on the financial sheets. It's a 20 million outlay or a 0 million outlay. I think if the loan is happening, I don't think it is contingent on McTominay leaving, and I have seen other journalists say that. Let's move on there, because we spoke about McTominay. That deal to Fulham looks as though it's fallen through based on this deal. Fabrizio Romano last night, Sander Berge will also sign his long-term deal at Fulham today. As reported, the medical is ongoing right now. Fulham left negotiations for McTominay, while Man United are focused on Manuel Ugarte as top target. Berge who was just part of backup options list. Now, he was just part of the backup options list. The problem was he's just gone to the team we wanted to sell Scott McTominay to. So whilst I'm not particularly gutted that we won't be signing Sander Berge, I am a little bit more dissuaded, or should I say perturbed, by the fact that if we do need money for Scott McTominay, one less club is now available to give us that money, because obviously Fulham don't need him and McTominay. So that's the only question mark there. If it is the case that we don't have to sell McTominay to get Sander Berge and then to get Manuel Ugarte in, then I don't mind this whatsoever. But it is worth putting this in here as a kind of keeping track of this sort of house of cards that's stacking up here. And does getting rid of Sander Berge to United for one, and also McTominay to Fulham for another, does that bring this whole thing down? Hopefully not. It seems as though it might not. CTB says Berge moving on is a strong indicator that Ugarte is happening. That's a good way of looking at it, because now, let's be honest, no offence to Fulham, if you're Sander Berge and his agent and his team, and the options are Fulham and Manchester United, unless you were born in central London, you're probably going to be picking Man United, aren't you? Even if it's just for the wages, if nothing else, let alone potential winning trophies, playing for the biggest club in the world, or certainly the biggest club in England, etc., etc., etc. The fact that Berge has decided that him to United isn't happening, and therefore is willing to go to Fulham, maybe, as CTB has said there, maybe that means that the reason we don't want him is because we've got someone else lined up, ready to go and sorted. It is a little bit of a clue that maybe United are well on the way with this Ugarte deal, or maybe we're reading too much into it. Let's move on to Jadon Sancho then. This is another big one. Juventus, 2 offensive wingers necessary, and on Sancho. I think this has been sort of Google translated here. Essentially, we've got, what's his name again? Sorry, the journalist. Alfredo Pedula has been talking about Jadon Sancho. Now, I think he's considered sort of not incredibly reliable, but not someone who you immediately dismiss. I think if you're aware of the sort of Reddit tier list on the Man United subreddit, I think he's a tier 3 journalist. Is that right, Ethan? Is that what you were saying? Which means that he has some sources, but isn't, you don't go and bet all your money that Jadon Sancho is going to Juventus. It says here, Juventus has started off on the right foot, but they are not stopping thinking about the market. It says, let's just get to it. Today, Juve have inquired about the position of Jadon Sancho, at the centre of rumours, but for the moment still at Manchester United. A glimmer of hope must be left, even if in these hours there are other priorities. So by the sound of it, Juve like the sound of Jadon Sancho, but he isn't their main target. There's other people who they are working on. We'll have to wait and see on that one. To me, I mean, it's sort of gone under the radar. Jadon Sancho wasn't in the squad at the weekend. And I know he had an ear infection, etc., but he also said, Ten Hag, that we can only pick 20 players. Like, I've got 20 players better, fitter, readier to work than Jadon Sancho was. And maybe it is simply an ear infection and he couldn't make it, fair enough. But to me, if Bruno Fernandes had an ear infection, do you think he wouldn't have been playing? Unless it was terrible. I just get the feeling that, and I said it many times, just because Jadon Sancho has apologised to Erik Ten Hag doesn't mean that 2 years of a broken relationship is fixed with an apology to the point where he trusts him, he's going to play him every week. We know he don't like him, as a player. Forget, personality-wise. They seem to butt heads personality-wise as well. Where is this reconciliation going to come from, where we've got a complete U-turn on what Ten Hag thinks of Sancho and vice versa? I think if anyone came in for Jadon Sancho, would be up for it personally. Facundo Pellistri is next up then. And actually, can we get the other version of this story on? Because Fabrizio Romano here giving it the here we go. Bring that back up, but while we look for the other one. Here we go. Exclusive story. Look at the timestamp on that tweet, please. If we can just scroll down for a second. Exclusive story, 9 a.m. this morning. Okay, cool. 9 a.m. exclusive. Pellistri is going to Panathinaikos. Now, when you say exclusive, usually that means you've got it first or you've got some information that no one else has got. However, just a second, Ethan's working his little fingers away. However, I'm going to take a sip of coffee because we've got a minute. Looks like United's third given last season. At 7:59 a.m, 1 hour and 1 minute earlier, Mike McGrath, who's been on this channel, friend of the channel, Manchester United have agreed a deal for Facundo Pellistri to move to Panathinaikos worth €6 million. Greek club urgently trying to register him before UEFA competitions. I'm going with this one because he said it first. And I like Romano. I defend him all the time. But Mike McGrath got that first. So well played to Mike McGrath, obviously. Anytime you get a story first, he's very good. And I don't know if anyone got it before him, but he certainly got it before Fabrizio Romano did. So there you go. I mean, Pellistri, it's never worked, has it? There's been hints and glimmers that he could be a decent player, but it's never worked out at Manchester United. It just hasn't. And I think, good to see him going to a club where hopefully he can get some minutes, he can build his career. He's already got a strong international career. He almost was playing for Uruguay before he was playing for United, which is mad. Who was the player who did that? I think Maradona. Is it Maradona? Look this up at home, and I might be wrong, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think Maradona played for Argentina before he played a single club game in his career. That might not be true. And on that note, we're going to go. Thank you very much for joining us. Make sure you check in later as well, because we're going to have an interview with Dharmesh Sheth, a big transfer update, loads of stuff going on. That will be coming out later. I'm going to speak to him in a few minutes. So that'll be the freshest, hottest news you can possibly imagine. And tonight, the return, of course, Howson versus. He's going to be looking into all the people who've been digging United out after a decent win, I think, against Fulham. If you aren't subscribed already, please hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you in a bit.